were you? What's your name?
Oh, man. I've remembered almost everything else. It's the best I can do.
Oh, well.
Good evening. So this is our call to order. It's, I think it's 6:02. Mr. Commissioner Bippard is running about 30 minutes late, and also Vice Chair Krasinski. I'm sorry, David. So we're going to go ahead and start the meeting. We're going to start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. I was just going to start out with a couple of things. First, before I forget, there are, I think, 3 bags now of wildflower seeds over there, and if you promise to plant them in the this month, you're welcome to take a bag. Please, they are Texas natives. I just bought way more than I can possibly use, so I just wanted to share them with the city. And there's also a pamphlet there on Native American seeds in case somebody wanted to look. Somebody asked me for a number of a place that they could buy specialized native seeds, so I just brought in that. So I was just going to welcome everybody to the Garden Ridge Wildlife Commission meeting. I definitely want to welcome Denise Miner-Williams. Thank you very much for joining our commission. And Shannon Drichta, I'm sorry because I never said anything to you before when you joined. We were in such a rush that one night. But definitely a welcome addition for our.
Welcome. I'm good.
Okay, to our 2 newest members.
She's an old timer.
I know, she's an old timer now. So I just want to remind everybody that all of our commissioners are volunteers. We even have something on the table for more people that would like to volunteer for our city for just about anything. And we're all volunteers, and we come from a lot of different walks of life here. And what brings us together on this dais, we have a love for wildlife and nature. Our commission is charged with reviewing all wildlife in Garden Ridge. We research solutions to opportunities, and we make recommendations to City Council for their consideration. One of the things we're responsible for is to make recommendations for the management of our white-tailed deer herd. We have and will continue to work with subject matter experts in the state of Texas to help us craft carefully considered recommendations to City for the benefit of the health of our deer, our habitat, and our citizens. And in quoting Aldo Leopold, the conservationist, he said that when seedlings are browsed to death, reproductive cycle ceases, and nature is out of kilter. And the solution is never easy, but stewardship is the place to start. Our city has partnered with the National Wildlife Federation. We're now a monarch butterfly city, and we are in the leadership circle in our very first year in the program. We have reviewed dark skies, and we're going to be taking that up at the beginning of next year, as that is an initiative that is taking hold in Texas for the benefit of both our citizens and the wildlife that depends on night skies. And the Commission will continue to educate ourselves and fellow citizens on the importance of improving the health of our habitat, the basis for survival for all of our wildlife. Native plants and trees are foundational to the food chain, as it supports all birds, insects, reptiles, and mammals that depend on it. And we do have a wildlife plan that we did vote on about a month or 2 ago, and we will be presenting that to the city. And it is a living document and will change with the needs of our wildlife, and will continue to balance it with the needs of our citizens. So with that, I turn it on over for citizen comments if we have any. I don't know if anybody signed up to make comments this evening. No comments this evening. Okay. I do want to say that if anybody has questions, we're never allowed to answer them from the dais. That's just the rules in Texas. But at least I am available after any meeting. If you have any specific questions on any topics, I'm happy to answer to the best of my ability. And we also have a comment period at the end of every meeting. So if there's something that you hear and you do want to make a comment about it, you can feel free at the end of the meeting. So I am going to be turning this meeting now over to Shannon. She's going to be presenting on birds. Great subject, one that needs a lot of attention.
All right, well, thank you all for letting me present on birds, which is one of my loves of Garden Ridge. Just to introduce myself to everybody, should I use that mic if I have to turn around, or can you all hear me? It's okay. My name is Shannon Drickta. We've lived here since 2008, and one of the things that I love about birds is that it does make me feel a part of our community. My mother-in-law got me a bird feeder in 2008 when we first moved here, and I thought, what a lame gift. And it sat for a long time, and then I just happened to go to the wild bird store and I was like, I have this bird feeder, what am I supposed to do with this? And they gave me some black sunflower seed, and within a day I had cardinals in my yard, and I was hooked from that day on. And so it does make me feel like I love being in my yard. I love, like in our wildlife plan, using native plants and seeing the hummingbirds in our Turk's cap. But the birds definitely bring an aspect of beauty, and so I like doing what I can to kind of help their journey, whether they're here year-round or if they are traveling. It's educational for me and my family. One of the things I picked up is this bird guide, which I'm sure you've probably all seen. We have 3 copies of them in our house because I have 2 daughters. I don't know if you all saw that, the birds of Central Texas. And just because we have our feeders right where we eat, we see birds constantly. And so one of the things we're trying to do right now is learn bird calls, and it's not going as quickly as we were identifying them by sight. It gets us outside. We've been on birding hikes, and the more I think that everybody knows as much as we do about birds, and then when we start talking about them, I realize that we probably talk about birds a little bit more than other families. And I talked a little bit about how bird feeders go hand in hand with native Texas plants, especially with the hummingbirds when they're here. And we have such a huge bird population here, which you'll find in the bird guides, that so many are here year-round because we have such a good climate for birds. Really, one of the only cyclical, I think, is the hummingbird, which is usually here between May and September. And so the presentation I'm giving came from Wild Birds Unlimited, the store just down the road in Schertz. And Marianne is here to help me if you have any questions, if you think I may have given any incorrect information or you want to ask like an expert. I'm a novice. I love birds, but she's the one that knows everything. Okay. So I wanted to focus the most on winterizing birds, what you can do in your yard as we get into these dormant, what people think are dormant months. There are still very active birds because we do have a year-round population. So the 3 main things that you can offer are reliable sources of food, water, and shelter. We'll go through some of those. As it's getting colder, it makes sense that birds are going to have to use more of their energy to keep themselves warm. So if you can use high-calorie seeds, such as peanuts, Niger seeds, and other seed blends that are high in sunflower seeds, those are all high in calorie content and don't make a huge mess in your backyard. And this was a fun fact I found. Sometimes on colder days, you may not see like chickadees, titmice, nuthatches, and jays. They cache seeds, and so they come back and forth to your feeder quite a bit. So they won't just stick around, but they're coming sometimes, it said 200 times a day. And they're finding spaces around your yard to cache their seeds. So they may not just hang around kind of like finches do. They'll hang on your feeder all day long. But during the colder months, they're trying to find places to go hide their seeds. The oil sunflower has a high calorie to ounce ratio due to its high fat and protein. And oil sunflower has twice the calories per pound than the striped sunflower seeds you might be thinking of. And the smaller shell makes less mess. And I am gonna go over and kind of point out some of these things that Wild Birds let me bring for show and tell, which made it a whole lot more fun. If you have anybody that you know who is a birder or enjoys doing backyard birding, it's a great resource that we have right here in our area. During the winter months, suet is one of the easiest ways to feed your birds. It has a high calorie content. It's not messy like seeds. Many birds, such as woodpeckers, they feast on insects, and they're not going to be as plentiful during the winter months because it's colder. And so they love the suet feeder, and one of them that I brought is specifically for woodpeckers, that they can actually balance their tail on the feeder, and they'll be there in a second and making a lot of noise. So water is one of the main things that some people may not think about during the winter. It is still dry during the winter here. We do get some more rain, but water is essential to the birds for their digestion and also for the insulation. If they have dirty feathers, they can't insulate themselves as well as when they're clean. So I was reading on something that said you need to clean out your bird bath like twice a week. I don't know. What do you think, Marianne? Is that a little high?
No, I don't think I would have.
Okay, that's just not enough?
Probably not.
Okay,
Depending on how much it's used.
okay. I'm probably not taking very good care of my birds, because they're lucky if I clean out my bird bath like once a week. So if you need to clean out your bird bath, you can use like a 1:9 ratio of vinegar and just keep rinsing it out until it stops foaming. And if you can, you know, multiple sources of water, just in case they don't like all being around in one area. And it also said a chickadee with a well-maintained feather can sustain a 70-degree layer of insulation between the outside air and its skin. So they're pretty good at conserving their body heat, but when they have to move around to find their food source, they lose their body heat pretty fast. All right, and then providing cover, shelter, and roosting space for birds. If you have nesting boxes, there are a lot that you can buy, or your kids can make them at Home Depot. They're just very simple to make. You can add one to your yard. If you have one, you need to consider cleaning it out from last year because there's a possibility of parasitic bugs that could have stayed during the winter. So I always thought you should leave a bird's nest alone because they needed to have that to make a new nest. But this says differently, and that is correct, to clean that out. Okay. And then here, this is not that big of a deal because we have brush piles everywhere, like especially with the ball moss, the drowned tree limbs. There's a lot of brush piles, but birds are looking for all sorts of small debris to make new nests. And they're needing some hiding spaces from natural predators like birds of prey or cats. So as you get into the winter, like a lot of people think because the hummingbirds aren't here, they don't see a lot of the really bright colored birds, they may think this is not a time to do anything with your birds, but it's a great time to clean out your feeders, and the birds are still here. So if you put out birdseed and you're consistent about it, you will have birds come to your yard. Give them a couple days and they'll be there. And keeping the birds dry when they can dine will attract bigger numbers. And so one of the things I brought is a weather baffle that can sit on top of your bird feeders to keep them dry. And also, even at Lowe's, they have the stakes that go in the ground that you can hang your bird feeders from to try to keep them a little bit more squirrel proof. And there's a couple other things that I can talk about as far as keeping squirrels away, or the people at the store can also help you with that. All right, oops, I'll go back. I'm gonna do my little show and tell.
So is that the baffle right there?
Yeah, I was gonna do
Okay.
a little show and tell. On? Okay. So here are a couple of the bird feeders. All right, I'm gonna go like this, I think. That I brought from the Wild Bird store. The first one is the suet feeder. And so this is the one that is specifically good for woodpeckers because it gives them a rest so they can sit and eat and then be able to balance themselves with their tail. And the suet cakes are no mess at all. You just interchange them and they have all sorts of different flavors, whatever you want to put in there. And then they also gave me one of these pretty decorative bird feeders that's a suet feeder as well. So you just get a metal hook, you can hang it from anywhere you want, put it in your trees, and you really don't see it. And so you enjoy the birds without a whole lot of extra decoration in your yard if you don't want it. And then we have their cylinder feeders. This is one of their larger metal ones, they're copper, and they have the cylinder food that is also no mess. You can get them in like the little cartons of 4 and save 5%, I think, on it. And those also just hang easily from a S-hook up in your tree or on a stand. And then this is the weather guard that I was talking about. It doesn't fit on that one. It fits on like, so it just sits right on top and it keeps them dry when they're eating their food. They do sell the weather guards, I think for, do they have one that's this big? Okay. And then this is another cylinder feeder that's smaller if you're not wanting to get the big cylinder of food. And the cylinder they gave me with this one it's a hot pepper. And so one of the things that they have found is that squirrels don't like hot pepper, and they also don't like safflower seed. So, but the birds love it. They can't taste the pepper. So that's one of the ways you can make your yard a little bit more squirrel-proof is with anything that's the hot pepper. And I brought my own. These are the bark butter bits, which the woodpeckers love to grab from any of the I don't know if any of these will work. It usually needs a smaller hole, I think, so they won't all fall out. And then they also let me bring this smaller cylinder for the smaller cylinder. So this is one of their main feeders. It has the perch for the birds to sit on, and I'm going to one of the cool things about these feeders, is it okay if I'm off the mic for just a second?
Yeah.
One of the cool things about their feeders is that the bottom comes off. So as far as cleaning, it's so much easier to clean these and keep it sanitary, so you're not trying to get little brushes into their feeders. And then this last one is a finch feeder with lots of perches because we have house finches and lesser golden finches that stay in our area all the time. And they have it doesn't seem like they ever get tired of being in large groups. They will just swarm around your feeder if you keep it clean. And I brought a little sample of the Niger seed that the finches love. And this is the only food that you can put in this because the holes are so small. And then they gave me, this is like one of their wild bird seed blends. It has a lot of the black sunflower seeds that have a lot of the high calorie content. And then this is the safflower, which is white, and this is the one that the squirrels don't like, but the birds love it. let's see. The other things they let me bring, and these are, please come up and get one. It's knowing your feeder birds. So it has a lot of information about our local birds and what they eat, what they enjoy. And they also gave me $5 off coupons, so you can each take one of those and utilize that. So now real quick, I'm just gonna go through, I'll leave this here. All right, now I'm just gonna go through, they gave me a slideshow of like the top 20 birds that we have here in South Texas. I took some of them out just because I had never seen them, and it's my briefing, so I'm allowed to take out what I want. This was based on reports of citizen scientists across the region. So here in Texas, you can see us there at the bottom. We're in the South Central region, and so obviously that's a pretty large region, and there's gonna be some things that they think are in our region that aren't really right where we are. So to kind of talk about how they break this slide down, this is talking about the white-throated sparrow. It talks about the regional rank. It says it's number 20, means it's the 20th most common reported in our region. Continental rank, it's number 13th commonly reported bird in North America. And then 47% of the feeder watch count sites saw these types of birds at their place. And when they were present, an average of 2.6 birds were reported. So that's kind of how these slides are broken down. The grackle, regional rank is number 14, seen at 59% of the feeders. Average flock size, 8.2. Obviously, they haven't seen HEB. And I was reading an article about how in downtown San Antonio, when they're out, especially during this time, there's just tens of thousands of birds. And so they're trying to figure out if they can use laser pointers to confuse them and just get them out of the downtown part of the city. And when they started asking environmentalists, is this really a good thing? They're like, where are they gonna go? And they're like, well, I don't care. It's just not downtown and pooping in our food anymore. That's all we care about. So they are everywhere. They mix seed and they eat suet. The red-bellied woodpecker, which is one of my favorites, they are loud, but they will hang around. If you have bird seed, you will probably see one of these woodpeckers. The regional rank is only number 13. It's seen at 64% of the feeders, and I never see really more than one. I know there are more than one because I can hear them screeching at each other, but I usually never see more than one. This is from my backyard that my nephew took a picture, and those were those bark butter bites. They clump together, and so they're able to take things out like seeds, but they don't fall out of your feeder. The dark-eyed junco, regional rank is number 12. We usually don't see these until wintertime, so if we do have them, it'll be starting around now. They like mixed seed. The Carolina wren, seen at 68% of the feeders. Average flock size 1.4, but I usually see these traveling in pairs, and I call them like tire birds because they seem to go everywhere. They're on my tires, they're on my porch, and they're also, I could play the sound of them. They're like our alarm birds because they're so loud, and they're in the morning, they just have a constant call. So this is actually from my window looking out on our rebar for our cement that finally got poured. But so they just really don't care where they are. They don't always have to be hidden up in the trees. The tufted titmouse is number 10 in this region. They love the striped sunflower seeds and the black oil sunflower seeds. They will hang around your feeder all day if you have clean seeds. The house finch is number 9. You can see the male has that red color, excuse me, and the female is more of a brown color. They have a beautiful call, I think. They love sunflower seeds as well. The northern mockingbird, you've probably been able to see their tail usually gives them away. They have a long tail, and I believe it's white striped underneath. They like the peanut butter, either the mixes of stuff that seems to attract them quite a bit. And so they do sell peanuts both in the shell and shelled. That the birds seem to like either one. The squirrels really like the shelled, so depends on what you're trying to attract. The Carolina chickadee really likes any kind of seed. It's not that picky. It has a small beak, so it's able to eat really whatever. The continental rank of the chickadee is number 2. Here it's number 7, so it's pretty widespread on where you find those. The house sparrow, I have not seen a lot of these. Do we see these? You guys see them? I don't see them in my backyard. So I'll believe you that you guys have seen them, and tell me what I need to be putting in my yard, because I don't attract many of those. The American robin, I've seen a lot more of these this year than I have in previous years. It's a regional rank number 5. They like fresh and dried fruit, and one of the good things about those cylinders is quite a few of them have dried cranberries and nuts and things that attract all sorts of birds. The mourning dove is a relative to the white-winged dove, which I call the flying pigs, and they will just bump up on any sort of feeder and knock as much seed out of it as they can. They're not very good at perching, but they can, and they will eat everything. So, and then there's a blue jay who, is one of the most beautiful birds, but is also one of the nastiest egg-stealing birds. And they make a lot of noise, but they are beautiful, so can't hold that against them, I guess. But the American goldfinch, this is probably my favorite backyard bird, just because, like, you can see on that little sack, those are really inexpensive feeders that you can get anywhere. You can make it your own if you want, and it'll just be covered with finches. And so here are just a couple that's in my backyard, and there's another one. There were like 3 or 4 that were just swarming around. And then number 1 here is the northern cardinal. Obviously the male is very distinctive, trying to show off with its red color, and then the female is brown with a bright orange beak. And then these are just a couple from mine. The barred owl, we have 2 of these in our backyard, and they just had babies. And so they're eating a whole lot of stuff in our yard. They're pretty huge, so they're gonna be feasting on any sort of rodents that you have in the backyard. It's questionable. We can't figure out. We had backyard chickens that were killed. We're not sure if it was raccoons or foxes or the owls looking for something for their babies, but they seem to like our chicken coop quite a bit. And then, of course, the ruby-throated hummingbird. They arrive between May and September. They feed on 1 part sugar, 4 parts water, so you can make your own nectar. We were talking about it today. If you keep a hummingbird feeder, you're not going to make them come back from their migration, but as long as it's clean, there may be a couple stragglers on their way. And you can put a connector on the top that is basically just some water that won't allow ants to crawl down into your hummingbird feeders that get them all grody. And that's it. I wanted to thank Marianne, especially for being here tonight, and Denise, the owner of Wild Birds, for letting us bring all this stuff for show and tell, and for providing me information. So that's all I have. Does anybody have any questions? Thank you. Anything for me? Yes. Oh, he was asking about the address of Wild Birds. Yeah. You're right. So if you go down 3009 where Garcia's is, the Mexican restaurant, it's in that strip mall. So it's like Garcia's, Champion Floors, a workout place, and then they're right there. And then Pizza Hut's on the end, if you know where that is.
Website?
It probably, is it in the book?
I do have one question. I don't know if you can answer it or if it's about the purple martins. Is there a particular way to attract those? I'm actually making some purple martin houses out of gourds, and I was going to put them up, but I don't know how to make them know I did that. Nobody has any on my street, so.
We have too many trees.
Wow. Oh, I don't know. Two sides, I don't have trees.
I can usually talk about that. Purple martins don't eat seeds and things. They're
Right.
strictly insect eaters. So the best way to attract them to your area is with a house.
Okay, so-
Either house or gourds, either one.
Okay.
They just have to have an area around them that's open for them to fly into. It's the main thing.
Right, and what's the distance that you need?
And open, I think it's like 20 feet. They needed 20 to 40 feet fly-in space. The house can be 12 to 15 feet tall.
And just from one side or all
You can-
sides?
All the way around.
Yeah, all the way around.
Okay.
Mhm.
Yeah, I got a couple places then.
Okay, that's good. And you,
Year-round, or?
they're just here in the summertime. They'll come back,
January to February.
yeah, they come back and you'll see scouts usually start in the end of January to February. And then they all gather up by the thousands in July and August and leave and go back to South America.
Oh, wow, cool.
So,
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Are not the robins also migrational?
Yes. We used to not have robins here, but they've started kind of staying here now in the winter and even the summer. And they've nested and stuff at the botanical center.
Sometimes I see 40 or 50 of them,
Right.
sometimes I don't see any.
Yeah, they'll come down here through migration. A lot of times they'll stay in the hill country. Depends on where the food is.
I guess I just do science.
Yes.
What about the Orioles? Are they just here during a
They're
short time?
Spring and summer.
Okay,
So
spring and summer birds.
They'll come back and.
Yes, ma'am.
I was going to ask you about the Carolina, about the buntings. You didn't say anything about the painted buntings. I've seen them in my lifetime. I've seen 2 or 3 of them in my backyard.
Here in Garden Ridge? Okay.
Yeah, but I thought I was drinking because you have to shake your head because they're so little and they bounce through and they're gone. Do they actually nest here or are they passing through?
They're also a spring and summer bird, and I know around the Bat Cave they have them.
Well, that's where I'm at.
Okay. They're back there, and in Crescent Bend they nest over there.
Are they here all year long?
No, just spring and summer. So
They were talking about the painted bunting. I don't know if you can hear them out here. It's spring and summer. I've only seen them at a couple state parks, like a little bit further west.
So awesome. But I
They're
don't know
beautiful.
If they run through here through the fly zone, is it, or they actually, they'll stay here?
They'll stay here, and they will come to feeders
Yeah.
in your yard.
And the other question I had was about the Carolina wren. That little thing is so inquisitive. Where does it make its nest? Because like you said, it's so inquisitive, a pile
Yeah.
of wood, and it just has to investigate sawdust. It loves sawdust.
Mhm.
You take a bath just right in front of you. You open the garage door and they're
They fly in.
the garage door or making a nest.
Yeah. I don't know. Do they nest in trees or do they even care?
They will nest in any kind of little hole and crevice.
Okay.
You can get that little birdhouse that she brought, that's a Carolina wren nest, but I've seen them nest in, a lot of time in hanging planters, they love hanging planters to nest in, wreaths on doors,
Yeah,
all
they don't
kinds
seem to
of.
be particular.
No.
I was wondering if there was a nest, in the wood pile, in the sawdust, in the tomato plot. They raise chicks. I've had the babies like right here. I mean, they're so.
Yeah.
I've never had them so tame. And it seems
They're very
like they're.
fearless, to be so little, they're very
Yeah.
fearless.
They love my garage. They love to fly in the
Yes, they love
garage.
garages too.
Yeah.
They're nice little birds.
Yeah,
they're
they're fun.
sweet.
They're insect eaters, so they're looking for bugs.
Yes.
Any more questions or, no? Okay. Well, thank you. That was great. I really appreciate your time too, and thank you for bringing all these things for us to look at and the pamphlets. Please feel free, who's ever here, to take a pamphlet. I do have a couple of their feeders, I must admit.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the minutes.
Second.
Okay. Did you sign it?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
You wanna take that motion and do something with it?
Accepted.
Well, yeah, you gotta get an eye from everybody though.
Everybody in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Okay. Thank you. All right, so now we'll move on to discussions and reports, the wildlife and wildlife incident reports. And we're going to start with the city council action concerning trapping of feral hogs. Yeah, I think you're better versed.
At the November City Council meeting, they approved me negotiating a contract with RMH Ranch Services to trap hogs in the city of Garden Ridge. I am at the current stance on that is I am awaiting a contract from Mr. Murphy, Ryan Murphy, and upon receipt of that and approval of a contract, then we will be moving forward with trapping hogs. It will begin in George Ranch.
Okay?
Is there any discussion around like the length of time? Because this is an ongoing issue and I wish,
Well, there was one thing that I asked Eric to look at, was to upgrade our equipment. So we're currently looking into getting the electronic equipment that's necessary to do it properly, because we're not able to, I mean, we have a cam that if somebody happens to be sitting there watching, we can do something, but we don't really have the same type of equipment as a professional. But yet I feel that we can upgrade our equipment. This is, as you stated, this is a forever thing. Once you get feral hogs, they're all over Texas. We're always going to have them. We've just been lucky, I think. I mean, well, Trophy Oaks hasn't been lucky. But it's an ongoing issue in Texas, and I don't see any end to it, and neither does Texas Parks and Wildlife. So we're looking at getting the proper equipment.
is it not the home, is it like, I understand what you're saying, but is it not beholden to the homeowners and homeowners association to fix their own problem and address it as they see fit with fences or some kind of barrier? To me, it's not,
Yeah.
it's not the
City?
cities, like, they've done what, I think they've intervened as much as they can with the resources that we have available, but to address this with, it's reactive, right? This isn't a proactive stance, it's a reactive stance. And every time we have somebody's yard torn up, we're just gonna react with $10,000. But frankly, the hogs are not an issue, right? We've had, what, one maybe problem since then?
Well, it's true that
Because of
we're
the
not
rain?
having a everyday thing. They've probably moved out, they'll probably move back. Feral hogs are in the area, they're down Park Lane
So
for that
what I'm saying
matter.
is we're spending
and-
$10,000, we're spending
yeah.
$10,000 on a problem we don't have anymore.
I think it still is a problem, though, even though if they're not here, they are gonna come back based on what the trappers are saying.
But you're just attracting them now back,
I don't,
right? You're not seeing sounders of hogs running through George Ranch, you know.
Oh, you're right.
I think it
Unless-
is,
The problem
But
is
it's-
that the hogs will be reoccurring.
Yes.
But they don't notify us ahead of time where they're gonna be reoccurring. They're in George Ranch this week, they'll be in Trophy Oaks the following week, they'll be in my backyard the week after that. I think that the city should invest in equipment that will work, that the city can move around. I don't think the homeowner should have to go out and buy traps and video equipment, but I think the city should have it available, just like the city has Havahart traps available if you've got skunks or raccoons. But putting good money after bad with trappers, I know the people from Trophy Oaks who were here last meeting said that they wanted professional trappers. Well, A professional trap, pig doesn't know the difference between a professional trap and a non-professional trap.
Well,
The
yeah.
difference is the tripping mechanism in trapping them. And we need to invest in the tripping mechanism that would allow the police department to trip them when the hogs are in there.
And I believe that is our plan.
Yeah.
That is our long-run plan, but right now, in the short run, we don't have anybody in the city that can trap. There's been some other extenuating circumstances where we don't have someone who can manage the trap for us that works for the city.
As far as I understood, though, we have traps from the city. They're just not like the electronic traps,
Right,
like a
right.
trap.
Right, the kind that
They do-
They're
trappers
not
use.
convenient.
No, it's not a
Well-
convenience
Yeah, it
thing. They're
is.
just,
It's absolutely
they're,
convenient.
they're just a trap.
No, it's absolutely a convenience thing. Either you man somebody there to wait for the hogs to get there, or you don't. It's a convenience issue. Like, I've done it. I've personally done it. It's a lot easier when you're sitting there on the couch and you're like, oh, there's some hogs in the trap via your phone, and you're like, I just shut the door.
Well, that's true, but
And
it's
since
really
we-
hard to pay
I'm
somebody
not
to
saying
sit
it's I'm
there.
not saying it's the wrong choice. I'm just saying it's a convenience.
Since we have
Right.
police officers on duty 24/7,
Yes.
and the police officers have to come to dispatch the hogs, it seems to me that the police officers can have a cell phone that's connected to the hog traps, and when they see the hogs in there, trap them and dispatch them.
I don't understand why why we need somebody to trigger the mechanism. You can do a motion activated.
Well, that's what we're talking about, buying the proper
Okay.
equipment. We don't
Okay.
have that equipment
if-
at this time.
but
And
if-
and the cost of that, is that where that
And-
10,000 came in?
Well, no, we are actually looking at it. We are now looking at purchasing it, okay, from the Wildlife Commission. I did ask for us to price the proper equipment, but that may be a while.
So what's the point of having our commission if city council's gonna
ahead
unilaterally
of us.
decide that, not unilaterally, but why are we even, like?
Here.
Here, yeah, that's a good
Exactly.
question, why are we here?
Should,
With the equipment that Mr. Murphy will be using will be, he will be monitoring the traps. When hogs go in, he will drop the sides, enclose it, and he will respond immediately before they damage the equipment and take them out of the city. I am going to ask Eric to do some research on the different types of equipment and get some cost proposals. I don't have that information yet, and I don't think he's had an opportunity since he's been back to work to really do much research on it. Also, the city council set a limit of $10,000 with the hog trapping.
And the pens that are currently in use, there's one in George Ranch, and there's one in Trophy Oaks. And the one in Trophy Oaks has been there for many, many years, more than one, I think about 7 years now. And it's in one place, nobody knows it's even there, but the hogs find it. And when they get in there, they're trapped, then the police take care of them, and then open it back up, and it takes a little while, and they'll be back.
We have 2 corral traps. One of those corral traps is in the back of Trophy Oaks, close to the quarry. The other one is sitting in George Ranch right now. I forget the end of one of the cul-de-sacs in a drainage easement.
It's in Santa Hills.
Is it Senna Hills? I just couldn't remember the street name. And we have several box traps located in George Ranch. And when we do have a problem in Trophy Oaks, in the past, we've utilized the corral trap and several of the box traps within the subdivision.
And even those in George Ranch that have had hog problems, they don't want them because they're afraid they'll attract more and cause more damage. So I don't understand, but that's their prerogative. You can't place something on somebody's property that they don't want. Well, then they're just gonna get revisited because they actually have pictures of these hogs. There's 1 or 2 of the adults. Actually, they're on video. If a smaller hog gets closer to the entrance, it chases them off. So they've been trapped. So once they've been trapped, they get to be very smart and very wise. They're like the streetwise gang member that He can almost smell a police officer close by. He'll go ahead and he takes care of it. It chases the others away and you don't catch them. We know pretty much where they're coming in. They're coming in off that cul-de-sac on Center Hills. Because we've got tracks and we've got them where they've been wallowing. So we pretty much know that's where they're coming in and they rummage the whole neighborhood.
I have been told by by Mr. Murphy that once they've moved on, obviously, but he feels like they will be back because once the freezes and the cold weather kills the vegetation, they're going to be coming back in looking for
they go
vegetation
where the food
to
is.
thrive on.
Mhm. And water supply. We have a lot
Yes.
of irrigation systems. We have a lot of landscapes that they like.
We have a lot of fences too that should be utilized.
Yeah, there are some. I also know they get underneath fences. Don't you have to do something with special fences?
Yes.
So I know Texas Parks and Wildlife said they recommended it. I don't know what's
2.5
necessary.
2 feet to 2.5 feet underground, you gotta either put concrete or stakes in the ground that deep, because they will root under any kind of a fence. And they'll make a hole for them.
That was in a trap situation, though, was my understanding.
They'll make holes under fences, but it's pretty obvious, like, oh, there's a giant hole under that fence right there. Maybe we should fill it in with some rocks or some dirt so they don't get back in. It's not like
dirt.
it's
It's
not,
not rocket science?
it's not rocket science.
Well, I think George Ranch will probably be doing something with fencing, I imagine. But the thing that worries me is if hogs, and I don't know if they would go as far as into Garden Ridge Estates, that could be an area where they would go, but that seems a little more in-city. I know where I live, it would be possible for them to get there. That would be not too hard to
If
see.
they can't get into one area, they'll find another.
Yeah,
We
and
also-
I would like to, my neighborhood doesn't have an association that's gonna build a fence around it.
Yeah, we don't either, and I think you can't build fences everywhere. And we've been talking to both Davenport and Garden Ridge Elementary, because they did get into Garden Ridge Elementary property and tore up the back of their field. And so they're on it, like they have people looking around, and if there's a fencing issue, obviously that's a security issue. And so, like, as far as the schools, they're working on it for their own security thing, but the city has to be responsible for areas that are not controlled by a HOA or.
The city doesn't control my front yard and I don't have a fence on it, right? So if a hog theoretically went in my front yard and tore it up, it's kind of just the way it is, right? Just like if they come eat my plants, unfortunately, that's just the way it is, right? Like, I'm not gonna complain to the city that, hey, these deer tore up my front yard. And
Some people are though, so I think they have to be reactive to what people are asking them to do. And it sounds like the city council already voted on it with a cap of $10,000. They're gonna see what actually happens, and I don't think it's reactive. I think it's trying to
Be proactive.
be
for the
proactive and
next
put in a
one.
policy to see how to deal with it.
It might be good to note to the homeowners in the city that overwatering attracts the hogs as well.
Yes, it does.
Porky likes soft ground.
They won't go for my rock in my front yard.
They don't like my dry backyard either, so.
Yeah, but they do like softer ground. They can
Yeah,
root
They-
in.
It's gotta be moist and wet.
Yeah, so it is a more attractive area. But hopefully we'll find our own equipment. I think if we work with a trapper for hogs, it will also help us train somebody here in the city on how it's working, where they're actually going to be able to, work with somebody. I know that's how I used to learn a lot at work. Hire somebody to come in and fix my refrigeration. But yes, after that, I could do certain things myself.
I think we ought to have, putting the whole burden on Eric might be a little much, that we should have some input from the commission on what equipment is looked at and what equipment is priced.
I don't think they want our opinion anymore. They've made their decisions. I'm good on not making a recommendation.
Well, I think we will make a recommendation when it comes to us. I think I already did ask for the equipment to be looked at, so it's just, I think it's important that we look and we have our own equipment, and that we learn how to do it properly, just like we're trying to do deer management. No one's asking us to go out and do the deer ourselves. So I think hogs, unfortunately, they do a fair amount of damage to personal property. Deer do a lot of damage to habitat and wildlife property. So we're kind of here to manage both, I think. So,
Just for clarification, there's not any management of hog, right? Isn't it state law? If you trap a hog, you have to dispatch it?
as far as I know,
Yeah.
No,
I know
There's no
I know a female,
TPW
females,
Right.
rules
they're,
on.
they're toast.
yeah, females have to be dispatched, but I
Yeah.
don't know that male have to be.
Males on a certain size.
No, I believe it's all hogs.
No, I had just listened
So
to
it's any
Jenna,
sex.
to Jessica Alderson. She
Yeah.
says males, if they get up to a certain size, but you have to find a ranch to take them to, a game ranch. Other than that, no, they're dispatched. You're right.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what I was told by Jessica.
Who's gonna mess with them?
But most people hopefully
So we should just start a
aren't
bounty,
taking it.
like a just dead hogs, just bring them up to City Hall. And
There
just
are
give
s-
you, we'll give you like a $50 voucher for your water bill.
Well, you know, there are cities that do it.
Don't say that, because we have people that would like to hunt them with bow and arrows.
Yeah,
And I can see that is an accident looking for a place to happen.
yeah.
I was just, that was being hopefully facetious. I hope that came across. Sorry.
I understand, but
Yeah,
there are those
it
that
might
don't
happen.
understand facetious. They take you for your word.
Just to be clear, he was joking.
Okay, thank you. So Jessica did do a meeting for the George Ranch people, which was great. I did get a copy of it, so I do have that presentation that if we want to give it again for people other than the George Ranch people or ourselves, I do have it. I had called to ask her to come, but she said she'd just been to Garden Ridge, so I just let it go. Okay, so anything else on hog management? And hopefully we'll get some numbers on our own equipment soon. Shame on you. Okay, so the police department report, I know we didn't get in our packet the animal control. I thought maybe we didn't have one, but we do. So any comments or, awful lot of squirrels. Any comments on these numbers?
No, I just think our numbers are significantly down from years previously,
They are.
so,
They are significantly down.
which is a good thing.
Very
But
good.
just to make note, I believe the rut has started,
Oh, yeah.
so that would definitely stand on 7 vehicle impacts.
I guess let me be clear, our numbers of dead deer being picked up monthly is down, so that's what I mean. If I wasn't being clear when I said our numbers are down.
No, I understood that. But when the rut starts, sometimes the numbers go up. So November will certainly be, I know I've reported a couple this month myself I've seen dead. Okay? So if there's no further comments on that, now we need an update on deer management program. Do we have an update on that?
Mr. Murphy was planning on attending the meeting, but he was not able to. He has filed all our permits. We're just waiting for the state's final approval on them. You know, there is a waiting period after the permits are completed. We are in the process of trying to secure some locations for trapping.
Okay?
Is there any, I know that we're trying to keep this somewhat obscure and out of sight, if you will, but is there a plan in place if there's not an unobscure place? To
We've
be
got
able to
two.
put it in non-obscure place?
We've got, actually, we have 2 properties that we are going to be contacting property owners
Okay,
concerning locating traps on their properties.
okay.
So if you have any properties or know of any, you can certainly. Okay. So I think that's probably it on deer management. Any other comments, questions, concerns? All right. So then on the D2, on the wildlife management plan for Garden Ridge, I would like to go ahead and present that to City Council next time. I know we did vote it in before, and I know Kat was looking for some edits, and we did get edits and approvals and from pretty much everybody. So is there any other questions about it, concerns about the presenting it to council next time?
Do we need a motion?
We did a motion before.
Yeah, I don't think we need a motion. I would just suggest that we could go ahead and send it to council,
That's
say
what I
tomorrow.
wanted done tomorrow, if we
I
can.
don't think it's a good idea to pressure them to make a decision at their December meeting with the
No, but
being
if
so
they get
long.
it now, that gives them time. If they
And-
want to say next time, that's
Right.
fine, but at
Could
least.
be on their January
Yeah.
agenda. But yeah, we can go ahead and send it to them if that's what the commission would like.
That gives them time to review it. It's really 8 pages, but then there's a lot of attachments and, you know, so I mean, it is, yeah, a fair amount. But it's some good information that would be great to get on our website.
I think it'd be a good idea to present it to them in December, and then they can take action probably in
Yeah.
January, February, whenever they're ready.
Okay. That sounds like a plan then. So we'll get that taken care of. On the projects, did everybody have a chance to sign the letter? So Troy and David, we do have a letter that we were sending to Chris Hensley. Craig Hensley.
Craig.
I worked with a gentleman named Chris for like 30 years. I can't get the, so anyway, Craig Hensley. I probably called him Chris a lot. And it was just to thank him. He really put up with a lot.
Who was he?
He was our Texas Parks and Wildlife gentleman. He developed our protocols for a new, we actually used the same protocol, basically. But he went with us and really kind of, he drove us and brought us a professional truck to do our deer counts.
Okay.
And was really, really a help. And he interceded with our citizens and held 2 meetings here. And
Okay. I thought that was who
it was a
I
very
just making sure.
difficult time for him.
He's now doing butterfly stuff,
Yeah.
isn't he? Okay.
He's
I
in
didn't
a-
mean that bad.
No, I know. He's in a happier place.
Yes,
He's in charge.
He's currently working at the same location as Jessica Alderson
Yeah.
in Government Canyon, I think, or
Yeah.
somewhere in that area.
Oh, I think he's in Bernie, but I'm not sure. I sent the addresses. But he is in charge of the Nature Tracker program for this area.
Every time an urban biologist comes here, they leave.
You know, to be honest with you, I know that I spoke with one of the urban biologists, and they did say if they are actually dealing with cities and people, it's become very contentious, and it can be really stressful. And even if their bosses are, you know, they understand. It's not like they don't understand, but it makes it difficult because they just really love, you know, what they're doing. You know, most urban biologists, all biologists are pretty passionate for the most part, the ones that I've worked with. It's just, it's difficult. But he said he didn't leave because of that. It's a greater love for him, so,
And I believe Kat's got the letter for you to sign.
yeah.
I will be heading to see you shortly.
And then we have, after that, the health of the wildlife in Garden Ridge. I hadn't seen any real concerns, other than the ruts started. We actually had the monarchs come through. I don't know if anybody saw any of them, but I had a fair amount this year in my yard. I was pretty happy. A lot more than I've ever had before, so,
If you went up to the library in their butterfly garden,
uh-huh.
like for about 3 days straight, it was full. So it was pretty cool.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
And then educational training sessions and grapevine articles. Denise, I was wondering if in January you could do something on the bats.
Sure.
That would be great. Thank you.
For an article or?
No, for presentation.
Presentation.
Yes,
Okay, sure.
for educational. Yes, ma'am.
So I don't have an article for the December grapevine.
Right, and I was
No.
going to discuss that. Should it be now?
If you can, please, yes.
Oh, okay, I
Thank
didn't
you.
know if I had to do it later. So our next meeting is December 16th, but I've actually heard from two people that December's become quite difficult and full of kids' programs and grandkids' programs and different Christmas events. And I was wondering if the commission would like to suspend for December and then meet back in January.
I make a motion to suspend December meeting.
Oh.
Well, you fit right in.
Yeah.
You love that, huh?
I was wanting to talk about Santa and his reindeer, over the commission, like, over the thing, but that's fine. I will second that motion.
Oh, man, are we missing that? I should bring that back.
Wait, was that a joke?
Okay. It's very dry tonight.
Mr. Bifford will tell you whenever he's joking.
Yeah, he's in charge of him, because it's not me.
He's his keeper.
All right. So then we won't have one for
We gotta vote.
December, okay?
We do have to vote on that.
Aye.
The motion.
But we need a motion.
She
And we
made
have
got
the
a motion.
motion,
I got a
whatever.
second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Aye.
Motion carries. All right. So,
Do we still need an article, though?
No? It would be
If you
not-
guys would like to do one, you don't have to, but I would need to know preferably before you leave tonight. That way I can finish the grapevine.
We can do some recommendation on hog prevention fences.
do you have some written up?
No, I'm just kidding.
All
That
right.
that would be, that'd be really,
Joke monitor.
I have nothing to say.
Trust me, I tried that at a meeting, and it was not well received at all. And I was dead serious when I said about keeping your yard well watered, don't overwater. Oh, it's like, why can't I use 200,000 gallons of water during the summer, you know? So it got to be the same kind of thing. It don't tell me how I can take care of my yard. If I want to spend the money on water, I will. Well, then don't complain if you get attacked by hogs.
Yeah.
Was my opinion, and I'm not joking. That's my serious feeling.
Okay, so yes, Nancy.
Back to the grapevine articles. If you would like to put something in the grapevine about Ms. Minor Williams' presentation in January, then that would need to go into the grapevine article
For
For the-
December.
in December.
And
No,
then it could be-
For January, which the deadline would be in December.
Okay.
I know that was confusing.
I will
Very-
speak to you about the grapevine article for your presentation after we're done, okay?
That would be, thank you. That would be great. And I'll tell you tomorrow, well, no, I'm working tomorrow, so.
You could just do that poem that they put with the reindeer food that you make, like with the glitter and oats and stuff that you can throw in your yard. Like just have a hush. There's a poem, a really sweet like Christmas poem that you throw out reindeer food in your yard. Is that maybe not?
You know, if you would like to do something like that for the Christmas one, if you have it, that would be great. If
I
we
don't
could
know how
substitute glitter,
professional. I mean, it's for elementary students. So,
well, you could say.
and I
read
have
to
the
your
recipe for the reindeer food. So, I don't know. That's true. Never mind. I won't do that.
All right. All right, we won't do that then. All right. Hey, you know, it's reindeer. Okay. So, meeting updates. Oh, you were at the meeting?
I'm gonna stop.
Okay. All right. So no update on the city council
city
regular
council.
meeting?
Yep,
Yeah?
I got some of that.
Thank you.
Um, All right, so city council meeting, I basically went over what we I went over the approval of place 4, Denise Minor, excuse me, Minor Williams. Went over the approval, they gave us the approval on that recommendation. And then, other than that, I think we approved Jeremiah McKinney's resignation. And I discussed, I think that was really it. I think it was the major things. It's the highlights.
Okay. Sorry I missed it. Okay. And then Parks Committee monthly meetings. I have spoken to a couple people in the Parks Committee. They're going to be doing some rocks in our wildflower meadow. It looks like we're going to be getting at least 2, if not 4, huge boulders put around it. And Councilwoman Swint said that the Boy Scouts might be building us a couple benches over there, just to kind of spruce up the area. And then eventually I might move into doing some other plantings in the area for birds or whatever when I can find what the deer don't eat. So I'm testing it. No, I test it in my own yard. I do. I've lost a lot of plants. Plants that people tell me that, no, actually I get a lot of mine for free where I volunteer. They give them to me. And I test for, I test for a landscaper. She goes, deer don't eat this. I take it home, I plant it. I said, nope, they ate it. Okay.
Deer lie.
Yeah. Because she wants to know, like, we're actually considered, believe it or not, like worst case scenario. We're level 3. So I test for the really high densely populated areas. You know how to side job, huh? So anyway, it will look nice when we get, some additional things, and hopefully the flowers will be coming up in, starting in February and March, if we have the rains, but also Dr. Miller said he would lend us something to water them if nothing happens. He said he's got one of those power things. I actually bought a hose and a wand, but he's got one of those that goes up on a tripod that could actually water our meadows, so.
My bluebonnets are already coming up.
Yeah, we had bluebonnets out there at our meadow. They're
Yeah.
like,
Yeah, little.
3/4 of an inch.
Yeah.
So we are actually starting to get some. Okay, we have ordinance 210. There's nothing on 210 that I'm aware of. Anything, Nancy, that we need to bring up? Good. No, that's not us. And then future agenda items. One thing that I wanted to start in January is I wanted to maybe have a couple of subcommittees. One for a public outreach. I really think we need to start a public outreach. And so, maybe doing something with the schools or kids group or Boy Scouts, and maybe, if we have a great presentation or, just a couple people maybe that want to work on that. Another couple maybe that would do communications, keep up with the grapevine, keep up with, I don't know what, tips for the month, I think would be good. I actually had some for a while from Texas Parks and Wildlife when we had a representative. Different things like that. Maybe a group that actually talks to the trappers that we work with and checks on equipment and things like that, that knows what they're doing. I don't mind doing it, but I'm not an expert, but I certainly
I know the city
will
has
learn.
talked about public informations officer kind
Yes.
of working
And our-
towards that. I don't think they've made any decisions. They just kind of floated the idea.
Right,
of
but
the
if we had a
entire council.
communication person, they would
Right.
liaison with that person.
Right. And
You know.
also, at our last thing at Raptitude for dinner night out or whatever that raises money for the schools, they had a guy out there doing a presentation on bats. And the feedback from the PTA that we got was people enjoyed the bat presentation more than they really enjoyed, they loved Raptitude, but they said that was the coolest thing. He brought out a ton of stuff.
People
So-
love bats.
No, they do love bats.
It really is a big thing here.
And so, I mean, if that's an easy, there's gonna be a dinner of the month somewhere at a restaurant or Urban Air or somewhere. for both the elementary school and the middle school, if you just find people who are free that can talk about a certain subject, that's an easy
Good.
outreach there.
Great, so, you know, and then any other ideas you have for any other different groups that could work, like for a year on something? Those were 3 that I thought of that maybe we could discuss. We're not actually supposed to discuss it tonight, because it's not on the agenda. We're discussing it to discuss it. At the next
There was
meeting.
a lot of discussion on that.
I know, but, you know,
Is
I
there
was
a
trying
way
to
that,
throw out an idea, so you guys, you know, whatever, you know, I just think.
You can put it on there and then we'll just reject it in January.
We'll just
I'm
what?
just kidding.
Object?
Is there a way we can actually get the folks from the Bat Cave to open on a certain night for the citizens? So many, I know they can't accommodate 4,500 people. That's how many people live approximately in the city, okay?
Well, that would be
I was-
something we could put on
If
our
we could get,
agenda,
like on
I
a Thursday
think.
night or a
Yeah.
Friday night, have them open up to so many where people could actually sign up and then they would provide just an evening to
Yeah.
watch the bats go out
Well-
and fly.
Well, that's what
Yeah.
the Bat Cave does for BCI, the Bat Cave or
Yeah.
international members. Usually it's a membership thing. They do open it up to special groups sometimes for donations.
Right.
You know, that would have to be a donation. But of course, the bats are only May through September,
Yeah.
so.
It's not on the agenda, though, so.
Oh,
So
so we're
this
not-
is something that we
We
need.
can add it to the
We can
agenda.
add it.
We're talking about talking about it.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
we need to add that to the agenda, because I
Yes,
think it is
if
a
we could.
fabulous idea, and it's something that we could look into.
We can look-
And maybe if we have on the agenda an educational person or an outreach person, then obviously maybe that person would be working towards something like that. But whatever, we'll have to discuss that at the next meeting. Is there any other topics that we could discuss? I mean, obviously, we'll have the updates on hogs, we'll have whatever, hopefully we'll have something on equipment, deer management, the usual stuff. Education on bats, which would be fabulous.
Have we heard anything about like rainwater collection or anything like that?
No, but we need to.
We're about to do it on our house,
Yeah.
so we've talked to like 3 different people.
We can
but-
add that to the agenda,
Yeah, we could add something like that to the agenda.
yes. It's an agenda
I'm not
item.
sure if that would be on the next agenda. We might be full with yeah, but that would be a great educational thing maybe you want to look into.
Since we're not meeting in December, can we scroll back down? Please. We
so
need
now-
to reschedule at least January's meeting, because it's on a Monday, it's a government holiday, and the city hall will be closed. So we gotta move away from the 20th of January to,
This says the 20th of January, 2019.
well, it's actually 2020, isn't it?
Right. The day is correct.
The date's correct, just not the year.
I apologize.
So
Okay.
we need to we move it to the 27th of January, the January meeting for next year.
Yeah, so when do we want to do that?
That would be good.
If that's a
because-
holiday, would it be the 27th then of January?
Or possibly 21st.
Is there something on the third
Martin Luther
Monday?
King Day.
Second Monday?
Yes, the second.
So the days that you don't see any color on them, they're open. Everything that is blocked out in any color is already taken.
Okay, so we could do the 21st or the 27th. You want to do it just the day after on a Tuesday?
If you want me to do the bat talk, I would prefer the 27th. I'm actually going to be out of town that 20th, the week, the third week.
Okay, we'll do it on the
that okay?
27th then.
And I'll be out of town, I'm gonna be also gone for the 21st.
Okay.
Oh, well,
Yeah,
part of that
Tuesdays are
week.
bad.
then it doesn't sound like well, I don't like Tuesdays either, so it
27th.
works.
27th works.
Tuesdays are bad for me.
I move we move it to the 27th.
All right, so,
Second.
yeah,
2020.
got a motion?
I don't think we just had, it's just consensus, we're good.
Consensus,
A motion,
all in
we need a
favor?
motion?
Do we need a
Sorry,
motion to
we need a
change the
motion.
Oh, we've got a
Yeah.
motion, we've got a
Hey,
second.
for once I'm doing it.
My bad.
Do we have a motion?
Yes.
Okay. And we have a second? Yes. Okay. So all in favor?
Aye.
All right. So our next meeting is going to be Monday, the 27th of January, 2020, and we're going to do bats.
And we'll have to do February and January then, I guess.
And then, do we change February now? Okay,
I would like to consider moving it to the 24th of,
Sure.
which is days of Monday, the 24th of February then.
it sounds good, because everybody said Tuesdays wasn't good, so.
I second that.
All in favor? Aye. All right, done.
Got it done.
All right, do we have any citizen comments now? We have 2 citizens, all right.
All right.
So if you just, your name, address. Oh.
Oh, there it is. Thank you. Thank you. Kitty Owen, 8420 Twisted Oaks. Just wanted to make a comment. I've been in the city for many years, and there's a lot of construction and a lot of development that has taken place. So the city, as it's been developing, has encountered a lot of push in the area of the wildlife. And the hog issue has something that has come up in the last couple of years. I don't think it's going away. I don't think any of y'all think it's going away. So I'm really glad to see that it's staying on the agenda, that it probably is going to be on the agenda. I think it has now, in the last year, actually taken precedent over the deer. The deer is like a side issue compared to the damage and the scare factor that the hogs has put into our residents. I'd just like to say thank you for keeping it on the agenda. I think it needs to stay on the agenda. I think it needs to take more priority than the deer. The deer has had highlighted in the last couple of years with the deer counts, and we have taken a lot of the deer out. They don't seem to be quite the same problem. We don't have any illness in the deer and the deer right now. So I'm really glad to see that I personally have not been had any damage from the deer, from the hogs, but they are very dangerous. They're a Texas problem, state problem all over, and they're very difficult to handle, and they haven't got a handle on it in the state of Texas yet. So just thank you for doing that, and please stay on that target and don't let it down. You know, it needs to be on every agenda. Thank you.
Thank you, appreciate it. If you would, do you have your information? Yes. Yeah. Oh. Dr. Jim, did you want to?
Jim Miller, 9910 Marie Meadow. I have a practical question. It didn't come up until the young lady got through talking about the birds towards the end. How does one get a hummingbird out of the garage? When they migrate every single year, one gets in the garage, and I'm reluctant to shoo them out with a broom because I know their metabolism is high and they're using up a lot of energy, and I don't want to stress them any more than usual. And I thought when it came towards dusk, if I left the garage door open at dusk, they would get out. But invariably, I go out there at 9 o'clock, he's still flapping around in the garage. And I'm wondering, do you feed them? Or what do I do when I get one caught in there? The grandkids, they won't let me dispatch him or get too aggressive trying to get him out of there. I just don't know what to do with the hummingbirds in the garage. For the last 3 years, when they migrate, they come in my garage. Thank you.
Okay, well, you might get an answer as soon as we adjourn. So do I have a motion to adjourn?
I so move.
Okay. Adjourn. See, I told you. It wasn't too long. You are feisty tonight.
I wasn't feisty, sorry.
That's all right.
I'm all fired up about the volume.
I know you are. I can see that. But maybe you can help us pick the right equipment so we